Hello and welcome to another episode of Smart Home Buying with Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. My name is Ed Alcantera. I'm an instructor and a homebuyer counselor. Today we have the pleasure of having Pedro Tavares as our guest. He was a UMass intern at our office and contributed quite a bit to the organization. And then he took the course and became a home buyer. So we're going to ask Pedro some questions about his experience and how the class has benefited him. So Pedro, thank you for coming in today and sharing your experience on home buying with the audience.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So you took the class back in November of 2018 and you purchased a two-family in July of 2019.
Yes.
Roughly 7 months, 8 months if my math is correct, afterwards. So how did you hear about the classes?
So, as you mentioned before, I was an intern for y'all, and as I went through that experience, I got to learn more and more about like what it is to buy a house and that it's not a difficult task. So as we all got closer and the months went by, I made it like a goal to like once I finish school and get a career to take the class. So
great. And so how did it help you in preparing for home ownership? I mean, we had 4 nights, different guest speakers. How did the class help you in preparing for that step?
I feel like the class does a really good job with getting straight to the point and telling you like what steps you need to take. For me, like being able to learn that you're not doing this by yourself, you're gonna build a team, and with this team, make sure you pick the right team members because that's gonna be like probably the most vital part of this whole process.
So it's critical, as we say in the class, to get a good team, and you're emphasizing that, so I'm glad that you bring that point up. What would you say you remember the most from the classes? 1 or 2 things. There's a lot of things we cover, a lot of material, a lot of speakers. What jumps out at you?
What jumps out to me the most, or what jumped out at me at the time was like getting to meet guest speakers and getting like different experiences and different like viewpoints of how the process works, and like being able to put yourself in, let's say, a lender's shoes or the lawyer's shoes, like getting to know their process and how they do things. That was super cool. I really enjoyed that part.
Good. So you got to see the perspective from those different positions.
Exactly.
And how it played into the whole process. That's great. That's great that you were able to experience that. And we do take pride in having professionals come in because nobody knows all this stuff. You have to learn it. Nobody's born with this knowledge. So we tell people, take a class, get educated, and it's the biggest investment of your life, so most people. So I'm glad you took us up on that. How was the course helpful in the process when you were actually buying the property? You know, you had to make an offer. You know, you're probably looking at things differently because you've got this education behind you. How was that knowledge helpful?
It was extremely helpful, mainly because throughout the process you understand what's going on. Like, I feel like if I hadn't taken the first-time homebuyer classes, I would have felt out of the loop. Like, I would have gone through the process and just like took the realtor's word for like whatever he was telling me. So going through these 4 classes, I got to like understand how everything works and know what was coming. Nothing was a surprise, like step by step, okay, yep. And it was like kind of like going through a checklist.
Yep.
And y'all provided that, so that was
great. And the other thing I like is that you mentioned that you knew what was coming, you weren't surprised, and rather than having somebody else guide you through the process, you were basically going through the process but having people at different points help you. So you were like basically flying your own plane, so to speak. You just had a co-pilot each step of the way. You know, you'd have the lender for the pre-approval, the real estate agent to help you find a house, the home inspector to help with the home inspection, and then the lender to approve the loan. and then basically the closing attorney. So you had these components come in at different phases, but you felt like you were in charge of the process.
Correct. And
Great.
it was also reassuring, having gone through the class, that I knew I could always get in contact with either you or Jim or Kathy. Like if I have any questions or concerns, or like if I feel like things aren't going right, it felt good knowing that I could always just reach out.
Well, that's what we're there for. We want to help our buyers feel comfortable and know they can call us because, things might pop up where you might say, geez, I'm not sure about that. Let me just give them a call and make sure something is right or not right or whatever. We can clarify. And what would you say to somebody who's, thinking of buying a house? I'm a friend of yours, and hey, you know what? You bought a house. I want to buy one too. What would you say to them?
The first thing I would say is, like, don't rush. It's going to be a long process. There's no need to move into the first house you see that you fall in love with. Get a feel for the market. Understand that you might not have the best house right now. And make sure you build a good team. Your team is what's going to make this process either a good experience or a bad experience. So.
Yeah, we've had home buyers who've had just such a great experience. They've picked the right people, and we've heard other people say that it wasn't a very pleasant experience. So we put a lot of emphasis in people building their team, getting the right professionals, people that are willing to communicate and give of their time, because first-time buyers need a little more attention, a little more hand-holding, and some professionals may not have the patience for that, so we always try to refer them to people that are used to working with first-time buyers. When did it strike you that you were a homeowner? I had somebody who said, the first night when I laid down and looked up to the ceiling. I've had somebody else say, well, it didn't strike me till I drove into the driveway with my car, or they gave me the keys at the closing. What was your feeling on that?
So I grew up in a household where we didn't celebrate Halloween. And this year, like, I moved in July, and this past Halloween, I was able to, like, hand out candy. And it was just like, wow, nobody's telling me I can't hand out candy. So that was when I felt like I'm a homeowner. Like, this is my place.
And when you get the mortgage statement every month, you feel like a homeowner, right?
That's the least fun part of it.
Yes.
But
And one last question. How did you feel now that you're a homeowner? How did it make you feel when you experienced that feeling like, I'm a homeowner now?
it feels great. Like, my family's proud. My friends are proud. I'm proud of myself. I grew up with that mindset, like, oh, this is something that's not attainable until I'm like 30 or 40 or whatever, like when I'm already settled and things like that.
You did it.
Yeah.
You were the first one to go to college and the first one to buy a house, and you took our course and you followed the steps. And
Yeah, first time in my family.
I remember sitting down with you and providing some guidance. And hey, you did a great job, Pedro. I want to congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate
Well, there you have it. We have a guest who worked in our office as an intern and decided to take the class, and he's a homeowner.
So we finally get it. We can finally the dream come true. Our first home. I mean, everybody when I get a family, I got a family, a beautiful, wonderful family. My next step was getting a home for my family. I don't see a home like just simply buying something. I see that home like something is bigger than a dream. So when we finally get the key, when they finally say this is your home now, it was a feeling that I can't describe with words. This is our first home. And everybody say that your first home is forever. And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, the feelings, I'm still thinking that this is real. This is good, this is real. I wake up every morning and stand out on my kitchen, look at my window, look the backyard of my house, and I'm still thinking, if this is a dream, please don't wake up. I don't want to wake up. I want to stay in here forever. I want to see my kids playing outside. I want to see my wife using her kitchen. So it's amazing, it's wonderful. I think that's the only thing that I can say.
And today we have the pleasure of having our past graduate, Carlos Ortiz Jr., who took the class in 2012 and purchased his home in 2014, share his experience with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ed.
Welcome, welcome. We're excited to hear about your experience. So, Carlos, thanks again for coming in. Tell us about the classes. How did you hear about the first-time homebuyer classes?
So I actually learned about the classes from the president, Michael Brita, of the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. And we were coworkers at the time. And he really, was the expert in my life that knew about home buying. So my father wanted to buy a house, so I linked him up with Michael, and Michael recommended that we take the class. So
you guys took the class together, and you went basically to support your dad and see what he was going to learn.
Yep. And yeah, we went to the class together, just to support, my father is a very hands-on guy. He likes to, do different things, but I wanted to be there to kind of, if there was something that needed explaining banking-wise or something like that, I was going to be his resource. So I went just to assist him, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And through that experience, you realize, hey, I can do this too.
Yeah, I mean, pretty early on, when we started talking about, just the different requirements and the money you need and all this stuff, I quickly realized, I'm like, I could pretty much do this as well. So even though we were there for him, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'm like, maybe I can make something happen out of this, so.
And that's a great reason to take the class, just to get educated, and then the possibilities are there.
Yeah.
And how did that class, the program, help you during the process of going through that home buying experience? Because there's many steps, and I'm sure you drew upon different components of the course, but how did that class help you with the process?
So before the process even started, I had a consultation with you. I basically sat down and visited you in your office after the class, and it got very specific on, how my credit was and how things I should be working on. So that took a little while, but it wasn't too much time. But once the process started, when we started looking at houses and just seeing what was in the market, I knew every step already. You know what I mean? It's like deja vu. Like, I've been here before. So in every step of the way, I felt comfortable. So it was only those things that were up in the air, like, when you make an offer on a house, you don't always get the offer accepted and things like that. So, but other than that, I knew the process. I felt comfortable.
So there were no surprises. You knew what was coming. You knew from your preparation how things were going to kind of go.
Yeah.
Except, you don't know if they're going to accept the offer, but that's great that you felt that sense of comfort and confidence.
Yep.
Which is why we hope people do take the classes. Then they can focus on other things and not be nervous about the process. They can negotiate better.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yep.
Now, your dad had a thought of buying a single family, and you purchased a multi. And how did that, why did you do that? I mean, he had a different outlook.
Yeah, so we had very different goals. And at the time, we were so focused on my father's process, and he was, in his 40s, and he really just wanted his forever home, just a home that he could stay and, kind of build this life. So he didn't really want to deal with, the tenants or whatever. So pretty much everything in his home is just, it's for him. If there's an issue, he could walk past it and not, he could ignore it, but he would never do that. But so that was his focus. And my objective is, I was a college student. I was at UMass Lowell at the time, and I was looking at it as an investment. So for me, buying a multi was going to make sense. I was going to have my own place that I can live and decorate and do whatever I wanted, but I also had a rental income that could help me pay the mortgage. So that was the difference. But it's funny because the houses we bought, he bought a white house, I bought a white house. He has black shutters and I have black shutters. So they look very similar. If you were to see them in a catalog, they would be right next to each other as, you know, the single family version and the multifamily version. But yeah, very different goals, but pretty much set up the same way. He was a veteran. He was in the Persian Gulf War. So
Thank you for serving.
yeah, so he, you know, great guy, and this is something he always wanted, you know, to have a home. And, you know, as soon as we started the process, it was very fast. I want to say 6 months. And, you know, if you talk to my father right now, you know, he has a notebook with all the houses he was interested in. And there was one house that was circled, and that house was the house we purchased.
Wow,
Yep.
great. And your experience was very similar, going through the steps, getting through that.
Yep.
What would you say was one of the most important things you learned in the classes? I know we've discussed budgeting and how important it is for a lot of home buyers.
Yeah.
What would you say was that the most important thing?
Absolutely. I think budgeting is really the, you know, the the bread and butter of this whole process. And a lot of people don't really look at what they're spending their money on. I had an aha moment in the class when I realized, hey, I'm spending $700-800 on food every month. Why am I doing this, first of all? But, you know, the other thing was I could use this money for something else. So once I identified an area that I could work at, you know, I started, you know, spending less and less money, less going out, and I started saving. And once I started saving the majority of that money, I knew that I could totally pay a mortgage. So budgeting was definitely the number one thing that stands out to me.
And that's what a lot of home buyers still practice.
Yep.
Because once you have a budget, then you can tweak it, address any changes, but you always know what you're spending. Another question I had for you was, when did it strike you that you were a homeowner?
So I purchased a home in September of 2014, and it didn't really hit me until maybe January or February. And it happened when there was a really bad snowstorm. And, you know, I woke up, it's freezing, you know, my house is nice and cozy. And all I was thinking about was, I need to get out there and clean. And it freaked me out a little bit, because it was that responsibility aspect of being a homeowner, that no one was going to come to the rescue and clean it for you. Your dad wasn't going to do it. Your mom wasn't going to go out there and clean the snow. And then going out there, that's when it hit me, you know, when I was shoveling. But I was doing it with a smile on my face, because I knew that, you know, it was something.
Your house.
It's my house. And something about the snow, it's really quiet and relaxing, that I was out there, you know, shoveling maybe for like 20 minutes. And my tenants came out to help, and my girlfriend at the time came and helped. So it was a very, very fun moment, and I'll always remember that.
Great. And the final question I wanted to ask you, how helpful was the down payment? How did it make a difference? Some people say it saved them a few months of, you know, either buying now or waiting 6 or 8 months to save up, and also gave them money in their pocket after the closing. What was your experience?
My experience was pretty much on those, it touched on those two topics. It probably saved me, you know, maybe 8 to 12 months. So, you know, it would have taken me at least a year longer maybe. But also having money after I purchased a home. I basically moved into my house with my bedroom set and a TV and, you know, little things here and there. So I had no furniture. You know, there was people that wanted to visit and, you know, say congratulations, and we didn't have anything. So having that money in my bank account, that extra money, you know, that I pretty much saved throughout that time, it helped me buy a couch. It helped me buy, you know, a dining room table and things like that. And that was a difference. At that point, the house became a home, and then it's been changing ever since. And it's amazing now.
Well, your journey is different because you went from living with your dad to buying a house. That's why you didn't have the furniture.
Yep.
But you're better off in that scenario than having a rental with all kinds of furniture. So,
Yeah.
you know, you've done a great job, and I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your experience. And hopefully we can help a lot more people in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you very much, Carlos.